So if you take a look, it's a fascinating idea. This is packed now. It says, "Vatesatza v'choso me'rachok." His sister stands at a distance, l'deya ma'i yoselo, to know what's going to happen to him. Now, the plain meaning over here, she went down to the river to see what's going to happen to Moshe Rabbeinu. But you see, there was Miriam had a prophecy that she told her father that you're going to have the Redeemer. And then when he gets tossed into the river, so her prophecy doesn't look so good because he's in the river where a lot of things could happen. So one of the Meforshim says that Vatesatza v'chochotzo, she stood firm. The word Vatesatza means she stood firm. Me'rachok, from a distance. That means no matter how distant it would seem to be at this point that this is going to be the Redeemer, she had full faith in that. Vatesatza v'chochotzo, she stood firm. Me'rachok, even though she was at a distance. I mean, she doesn't give up hope on the fact that a lot can happen, which then does happen. Right? That's what the lesson over here is that in life a person has to know never to give up hope. A lot of funny things happen in life, a lot of situations where people have given up, where you don't see any yush, right? It's yush, you don't see any hope. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu has many ways to bring about salvations. Rabbi, if you've heard of Chief Rabbi Herzog, Rabbi Yitzchak Alevi Herzog, his wife was deathly ill. And they even went to the Chazon Ish for a bracha. She didn't have much longer to live. They went to the Chazon Ish for a bracha. The Chazon Ish gave her a bracha, and within the doctors had given her 2 weeks to live. And during those 2 weeks, antibiotics then came to the market. She was cured. So a person sometimes say, you say, what hope is there? I don't see any hope. You don't have to see. Nobody saw the antibiotics. You didn't see it. I had no idea. You couldn't have come up with, in your wildest dreams, you couldn't have figured out how is she going to get out of this one. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu has ways to get people out of it. So that's the first lesson over here. So then, Vatered bas Paro lirchotz ala yor. Paro's daughter goes down to wash on the yor. V'narosel chos hayad yor. Vatered es hateva besoch hasuf. She sends out her, according to one opinion, is her maidservant to go bring the what do you call it? She sends her maidservant out to go get the this basket that's floating in the water. According to the other opinion, she stretched her arm out. Amosa, it means your arm. And she stretched her arm out, and according to Chazal, the Medrash, her arm miraculously stretched. Different opinions how far it stretched. One opinion is 60 amos. 60 amos is about 90 feet. Right? I mean, you get a first down on every play like that. Fourth and long. You just go for the stretch play. So she stretches her arm out. Now the question over there goes, so what happened? And if you put it in a proper perspective, what happened? She reached her arm out, and it stretched. Now that doesn't, if you stop and think about it. Let's say I was sitting here. Let's say I tell you, that clock is off. I want to adjust the clock. And I stretch my arm out. Now, one of two things is going to happen. If I stretch my arm out to reach that clock, which is on the far wall, which is about 30 feet away from me, if I stretch my arm out, one of two things, either my arm won't stretch, in which case that makes me very weird. Like, why? I'm trying to reach the clock. That would be very strange. And even stranger is my arm does stretch. Because she doesn't have a history of her arm stretching. That means, this is the classic Gemara question, what was the Havamina? Why did she think her arm would stretch? What was she thinking? If her arm doesn't stretch, then it's ridiculous. And if her arm does stretch, she has no reason to think that it will. So what was she go through her mind over here? Good question, right? The answer is we learn a Musar lesson. The Musar lesson is that sometimes in life you have to try to help somebody. I don't think I'm capable. Try. And you'll see what happens. Either it'll work or it won't work. They have these stories about, a kid trapped under a car and the mother comes over and she lifts the car off her. What were you thinking? She's not an Olympic weightlifter? How could she possibly even attempt to do it? The answer is because somebody needs help. I got to try something. So you try. Next thing you know, the car lifts off. They got all sorts of explanations, adrenaline, this, that, and the other, how it happened. But she tried. She tried because he got the adrenaline. See, she tried. So she opens it up. Now watch Pasuk Vav. Vatiftach vatireu es hayeled v'ninar bochet. She opens it up. She sees the child is crying. Vatachbal olav, she has compassion. Vatomer miyaldei ha'ivrim zeh. She says, oh, he's one of the Hebrews. How did she know? How did she know? So one of
Circumcision?
he was circumcised. Ah, but that begs the question that Yosef had all the Egyptians circumcised. Remember, Yosef had made, but then it says a new king arose over Yosef. Vayakam melech Chodesh, who he abolished Yosef's decree of circumcision. So that's why you see sometimes HaKadosh Baruch Hu spins the wheels in such a way that this way she'd recognize he's a Jewish child. The whole world, you see, a countrywide decree, you know what would be the equivalent of nowadays? It would be the equivalent of the United States, the Treasury, dropping the interest rates. And then one guy in Lakewood who studies Torah can now afford a house, and he wasn't able to afford the house before. Why could he afford the house? Because the entire country dropped interest rates. And you stop and think to yourself, why'd they do it? It was all for one guy who's sitting and learning Baba Kama, in Lakewood, who needs to buy a house, so the whole country is affected because of one Jew. So the whole decree, nobody needs to circumcise. Why? Because in a few years there's going to be a child floating in the water in Basia, and the daughter of Paro is going to see him. He has to be able to identify him as a Jew. So you see how Kadosh Baruch Hu is spinning the wheels over here, because her father made the decree. Why is Moshe in the water to begin with? Because Paro's worried there's going to be a redeemer. And he's doing everything humanly possible to avoid this redeemer, because the astrologers have said the Jewish redeemer was born. So what happens? His own daughter goes, brings him out of the water, and then is going to raise him in her father's palace. So there is her step-grandson. His step-grandson is sitting, his adopted grandson is sitting on his lap, where he's calling in and talking to his military. Anybody say any word about the advice? He's burping his grandson and talking about any word on the redeemer. And he's got him on his lap. So that's HaKadosh Baruch Hu spinning, even more than that. The famous question is, why would Paro raise him? I mean, why is Paro taking in this Jew? He sees he's a Jewish kid. So it's very interesting. Remember that he was in the palace, and he had 3 advisors. And one of his advisors was Bilam, and one was Yisro. And Bilam said, this looks like a precocious youngster. But I'm nervous about him. I got a bad feeling about him. I think we should kill him now. And Yisro said, no, let's put him to the test. And that's the famous test with the coals and the gems. So what do they put it, and Moshe Rabbeinu reaches for the coals. He reaches for the gems. And the Malach comes, the angel comes, and he pushes his hands over. He picks up one of the coals, touches it to his mouth. And from that, Moshe Rabbeinu had developed a lisp. So you see that also, why Moshe Rabbeinu, he has trouble talking. From the moment Moshe Rabbeinu had trouble talking, Paro was convinced this can't be the Redeemer. Because in his mind, who becomes a leader? Some guy who's got, the ability to speak, and if you can't speak, you're not going to become a leader. If you can't talk intelligently, you're not going to become a leader. You may become the president, but you're not going to become the leader, right? Because in their mind, you got to be able to convince people, talk about, a guy gets up and talks like this, he's not going to stop if he's just a leader. So this is all part of God's plan. You see, that even he burns his mouth, and that's the way that he's going to be raised on Paro's lap, where Paro's still looking to try to prevent the Redeemer. That's how Kadosh Baruch Hu is manipulating events in the world. And I'll tell you a real shocker. What day was this? Moshe Rabbeinu is 3 months old, right? He's 3 months old in this. What day was he? He was born the 7th of Adar. From the 7th of Adar, Nisan, Iyar, Sivan. So 3 months later is the 6th day of Sivan. 3 months from the day he's born. This is the day she finds him. What happened on the 6th day of Sivan? The Torah was given in Har Sinai. When she opens up this, she gets a personal experience of revelation at Har Sinai. It's the 6th day of Sivan. She opens it up, and that creates a spiritual transformation in her. And therefore she ends up converting, and believe it or not, she's going to end up becoming the wife of Kalev ben Yefuna. Kalev is Moshe. Remember Kalev, the two spies? Kalev ben Yefuneh. And what's remarkable is Kalev's first wife, he had two wives. You know what Kalev's first wife was? Miriam. So that this girl who she ends up meeting at the river over there, Miriam, this is going to be her co-wife later on in life. This is going to be her co-wife. Interesting, isn't it? So she becomes Jewish, goes through this spiritual transformation. What triggers it? She opens up and she sees there's a, what do you call it? Now, I want to tell you something. There's an interesting, it's a vort, but it's so much depth to it. Somebody once said she sees a child crying and she says, oh, Miyaldei ha'ivrim zeh, he's a Jewish child. How'd she know? How'd she know? So somebody once said, because Jews cry differently. Tremendous depth. You know what that means? When a Jew cries, there's a cry mixed with hope. And here we are 2,000 years later, we're still talking about the rebuilding of the Beis Hamikdash. When the Jews cry, there's a cry of hope mixed in. It's not a cry, there's despair, despondency, but there's a percentage of hope. And so when a Jew cries, it's again, it's not the literal pshat, but there's a lot of depth to that. That a Jew, she hears a Jewish cry, the Jew cries differently. And there's even one of the Gedolim, I remember there was a story, somebody in a family died and the kids, some relative started wailing. And he said, don't wail, Jews don't wail. Jews don't wail. You cry, you don't wail. There's a cry of despondency. There was apparently a non-Jewish tourist got to the Exile, went to the Western Wall on Tisha B'Av, where everybody is saying, the Tisha B'Av, people go to the Western Wall and they cry at the destruction of Beis Hamikdash. So one of these non-Jewish tourists says, why is everybody crying? They said, well, we had the temple stood here and it was destroyed. He says, oh, you didn't have insurance. No, that was the reaction. You didn't have insurance on the building. Otherwise, if you had insurance, you wouldn't be crying. So we do have insurance. The only thing is we haven't paid up our premiums yet. So the premium, there are certain premiums we have to pay. If we paid those premiums, we would get the insurance. The building would be restored. So she takes a look. So the sister asks her, should I go and get you a Jewish woman to nurse the baby? Because I'll say that all the Egyptian women over there tried nursing him, but Moshe Rabbeinu, because he was going to be speaking with Hashem directly, so that he didn't nurse from the impurity of the Egyptian women. So she says, should I get you a Jewish woman, an Ivri? She said to her, yeah, go. So she goes and she calls his mother. So Yocheved comes. So, about 3 or 4 lines from the bottom. Vatomer labas paro, hey lichi es hayelad hazeh v'heinikiu. Take this child and nurse him for me. V'ani atein eschorich, and I'll pay you. V'tikach ha'isha hayelad v'tedikeh. She takes him and she nurses him. That's called a great job. Now, a great job is something you would do for free, and you get paid for it. That's called a great job. And if you get paid a lot more than you think you deserve, that's a really good job. That's an unbelievable. You want to know the best job I ever had in my life? Best job I ever had. I mean, this besides being at Ohr Somayach, right? The best job I ever had was when I was about 19. So we used to go to the local JCC twice a week. There was men's basketball, Tuesday nights and Thursday nights. So I went to play. I went to play basketball for a couple of hours. So one day the guy running the gym, he didn't feel like being there. So he asked me if I would be willing to open the gym, help bring the rack of basketballs out, which I did anyway up until that point, because I was the first one there, usually one of the first ones there, put the basketballs away and lock up the gym, and then get paid for it. So I used to go play ball and get paid. I tell people I was at one point a professional basketball player because I played basketball and I got paid for it. Right? That was the best job I ever had by far. Right? But nothing's ever compared to it. So she tells her nurse, who's she nursing? Her own child, which she's going to do anyway, and she's getting paid. She's getting paid to nurse her child. Okay. So then Moshe Rabbeinu is brought up, and if you look at the bottom, this is very insightful into what's going to happen throughout the rest of the history. She brings the child to Bas Paro. Vatikra Shemo Moshe. She names him Moshe. According to some, how did Bas Paro know Lashon HaKodesh? So she decided what she wants to name him and asked the mother, how do you say this in Lashon HaKodesh? Vatikra Shemo Moshe. Why? Vatomer kibin hamayim mishisiu, because I drew him out of the water. Now, if that's true, she drew him out of the water, so what should she have called him? Mishisiu. Why did you call me? Why did you call him Moshe? She should have said because I drew him out of the water. She called him name. It's like his name is Moshe, which is she called him drawer. She should have called him Drew. Mishisiu is past tense. I drew him out of the water. What does she call him? Moshe, the drawer. Right? Why? What's the answer, obviously? Because the name is a description of what his role in life is going to be. He's going to be the drawer. He's going to be the one who draws the Torah down from Shemayim. He's going to draw the Jewish people out of Egypt. He's going to draw them through the desert for 40 years. Moshe Rabbeinu that is his task in life. He is going to be the one who draws others. Minamayim mishisiu. I drew him out of the water. Not only that, I rescued him. He's going to be rescuing people. So Moshe Rabbeinu, the name is a description, not only what she did is really a preview of what he's going to be doing. That's the nature of Moshe Rabbeinu. That's his whole task in life. Okay. So now we get to a very, very big question. Very, very, you're going to have to turn on your Gemara thinking caps now. Because it says, Vayigdal Moshe, Moshe gets older. And he's, he's also, Rashi says, Vayigdal means that he's already, he's becoming more prominent. Vayetze alecha vayar b'sivlosam, he sees the brothers suffering. Vayarish mitzri make ishiv hermecha, he sees an Egyptian is hitting a Jew. Now the Egyptian, according to the Medrash, the Egyptian took a liking to this Jew's wife. And he got the Jew up early before the crack of dawn. It was still dark, got the Jew up early to go out and do work. Then he went back. The wife, it was dark, she thought it was her husband, and he violated the guy's wife. When the guy realized it, and the Egyptian knew that the husband understood what had happened, so he was just oppressing him. Because they're oppressing him and possibly trying to kill him. So what did Moshe Rabbeinu do? Vayifen kovacho, he looks in all directions. Vayar ki eini, she sees that there's nobody around. Vayaches ha-mitzri vayitbeneo b'chol. He smites the Mitzri and he hides him in the sand. He buries him in the sand. So the first question is over here. I mean, the plain meaning is he takes a look around. He sees nobody's watching. So he kills the Egyptian. That's an indication of leadership, potential leadership. On the one hand, you take responsibility, right? Somebody's suffering. I got to step in over here. Somebody needs me. On the other hand, he's not rash and impulsive about it. Vayifen ko v'cho. First look around you. Don't just go rushing ahead. A headlong rush. You have to look around you to see what's happening. Now, watch this. Where do we have a precedent for this sort of stepping in when a Jewish woman has been violated? Where do we have a precedent for that?
The story of Shechem and Dinah?
Yes, Shechem and Dinah. And who steps in? Her two brothers, who? Shimon and Levi. Ooh. So you're saying, what did Levi say? When they asked Yaakov, Vina said, why'd you do it? They said, Hakizona yasas achosenu. They're going to turn our sister into a harlot. So you see that Levi, Moshe's ancestor, he comes from Yeshivat Levi, when a woman was violated, Levi can't tolerate it, and Levi goes and takes action. But they're criticized by Yaakov Avinu. Why? Because they didn't take the other circumstances into consideration. They just went ahead and did it. So Moshe Rabbeinu, as a descendant, takes the same energy. He's got the genetic tendency from Levi to stand up when a woman's been violated, a Jewish woman, and he takes action. But before he does, he takes it one step further, which is what? Vayifen ko v'cho. First, look around. And where are we going to find this again in history? We're going to find it again, yet again, by a member of Yeshivat Levi. Who's it going to be? Pinchas, correct. When the Jewish man is consorting with the non-Jewish woman, Pinchas also from Yeshivat Levi, because he's a Kohen, he comes from Aaron a Kohen, which Yeshivat Levi, and Pinchas also takes action. But what does Pinchas do before he does? He approached Moshe Rabbeinu to check if this is the right thing to do. Which is, again, it's taking that same Levi energy, but tapering it with responsibility. Vayifen ko v'cho. First, you got to look around. What are the consequences going to be over here? And so Moshe Rabbeinu shows leadership ability because on the one hand, he steps in to help the oppressed. On the other hand, it's not rash and impulsive. It's something that's done with forethought. Vayifen ko v'cho. Now look at Rashi. This is going to create a very big problem, gentlemen. Take a look at Rashi. Vayifen ko v'cho, it's the right column of Rashi. 8 lines from the bottom, 7, 8 lines from the bottom. Pasuk Yud Beis. If you find it, please show the person next to you. And I'm not going to spill the coffee today. Bli netter. I'm going to attempt not to spill the coffee. Vayifen kovacho. What does it mean here and there? Ra'a ma'asalo b'bayis. He saw what he did in this guy's house, that he had violated his wife. Uma'asalo b'asara. He sees what he's doing out in the field, that he's smacking him around. Vayar ki ein ish. He sees there's no one around. So what does Rashi say? She'ein ish asid lotzeis mimenu sheyis gayer. Moshe Rabbeinu saw prophetically that no one would emerge from this Egyptian who's going to convert to Judaism. And after he sees that prophetically, then he kills him. Now, there's a big question here. Ready? Ready for the thumbs. Get the sharpen the thumbs, guys. Right? Here we go. The Egyptian was hitting the Jew. Was it a life-threatening situation or not? No. 1 second. If it wasn't, so what gives him the right to kill the Egyptian? It's not life-threatening. Why is he killing him? It's not life-threatening, so break it up. Why are you killing the guy? You can't kill. Just as two guys punching somebody, you can't go kill him. And if it is life-threatening, so since when do we take into account future generations? If somebody deserves to die, if Reuven is chasing Shimon with a knife, and Reuven is a Rodev, you have to step in and you have to kill Reuven. You don't stop and think, but 1 second, one of Reuven's children may become the Gadol Hador, may become the leader of a generation. You don't think, if the guy deserves to die, he's got to die, you got to kill him right now. Not only that, do you know that a woman in Beis Din who's pregnant, let's say a woman committed a capital offense, and she's pregnant, she worshipped idols, and she's condemned to death. Do you know that if she's pregnant, Beis Din does not wait for her to give birth? Yeah, look at what's going to be. Right now, that's the law. That's what we have to do. So either way you turn, you've got a problem here. If this is where the thumbs really go up, right, with the Jewish tune. If it was life-threatening, so why is Moshe looking into the future? You're supposed to kill him. He's to protect the Jew. And if it's not life-threatening, so what gives you the right to kill him? You understand the problem here? If you don't have right, but neither of them have anything to do with what's going to happen in the future. That's the problem. So there's a brilliant answer. It's a brilliant, brilliant answer. The answer is, he wasn't trying to kill him. Had he been trying to kill him, Moshe would have stepped in without making any calculations. Elomai, what? He wasn't trying to kill him. Oh. What's the halacha if a Noachide is hitting a Jew? There the halacha is, he will be put to death by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What's called Misa Bidei Shemayim. Oh, Misa Bidei Shemayim. How did Moshe kill him, by the way? How did Moshe kill him?
He said a secret name of...
He said one of the names of Hashem. Oh. That means Moshe Rabbeinu himself was slipping into Misa Bidei Shemayim mode. When Hashem puts people to death, what does Hashem do? Hashem makes all these future calculations. If Hashem puts somebody to death, it's not just like Beis Din, this is the law, execute her. When Hashem puts somebody to death, he takes in, well, maybe his wife doesn't deserve the suffering of losing him. That could get him off the hook. Or maybe he's going to have a future grandson who's going to be a big Talmid Chacham. That could get him off the hook. Hashem makes calculations. So Moshe Rabbeinu, who's killing him with Hashem's name, he's pronouncing Hashem's name. It's a good thing if you could knock people off like that, by the way. You know how to do it. Those who know how to do it don't say. But if Moshe Rabbeinu, you're going to pronounce God's name, that means you're slipping into Misa Bidei Shemayim. You understand? You're slipping into divine punishment mode. Oh, divine punishment mode requires making all the calculations. Therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu, he's a Noachide who's hitting a Jew. It's not a life threat. My thumbs are flying today. It's not a life threat. He's a Noachide who's hitting a Jew. It's not life-threatening. Otherwise, he'd step in right away without any calculations. It's not life-threatening, but the Noachide, according to the Rambam, deserves to die. He gets what's called divine death. So Moshe Rabbeinu is going to use divine death over here. But when you apply divine death, then you do make all sorts of prophetic calculations on the future, saying that God takes all circumstances into account. Therefore, Moshe Rabbeinu looks into the future, and Moshe Rabbeinu sees nothing good is going to come out of him anyway. Take him out. That's how the Brisker Rav explains it. Beautiful explanation, because the problem's a very big problem. When you go to Shabbos, this Shabbos, ask that question at the Shabbos table. You'll baffle people. You'll baffle people. You go, like, what was he? Was he a life threat or he wasn't a life threat? It's a very, very good. It was a very good question. Okay, now Moshe Rabbeinu, the next day he goes out, and here comes the trouble. Vayetze v'yom hasheni introduces the two biggest rats in the Torah, right? Vayetze v'yom hasheni v'nei shnei anoshim ivrim nitzeh. Two Jewish men are fighting. And Rashi says this is big. This is what do you call it? Dasan and Aviram, who are going to be the thorn in Moshe Rabbeinu's side until when?
After Korach?
With Korach. The earth is going to eventually swallow them up, and they're going to disappear. But the trouble starts over here. And there's a Dasan and Aviram in every community. Vayomer l'rosha lama sakereyecha. Why are you wicked one? Why are you hitting your friend who's wicked like you? And this is what one of the first lessons they taught us in day school. To even pick up your hand to hit. You don't even have to hit somebody. To even pick up your hand to strike, at that moment, you're called a Russia. To hit another Jew, you're called a Russia from the moment you pick up your hand, even if you haven't hit him yet. Depending on who it is. Depending on who it is. But even if you haven't hit him, you're already called a Russia. The Moshe says, why are you calling? So look at their reaction. Who made you in charge of us? You're going to kill me like you killed the Egyptian yesterday? Moshe Rabbeinu understands the hint. Moshe, okay, now I know. Okay, word got out. I thought it didn't. Word got out. Word got out. So it says, Vayishma Paro es hadover. The Paro, they snitched on him. They ratted him out, the Paro. Vayishma Paro es hadover azeh vayivakesh laharoges Moshe. Wanted to execute Moshe. What the Medrash says? They brought him into the executioner. He chopped him on the neck with the sword. The sword bounced back and killed the executioner. I hate when that happens. Right? The sword, kaboom, boom, right? It bounced off. Moshe Rabbeinu escapes. Vayivrach Moshe mipnei Paro, vayeshev be'eretz Midian, vayeshev hala be'er. So Moshe runs away and he goes to Midian and he goes to the well. He runs all the way to Midian, and he goes in first place. He goes to the well. Why do you go to the well? Why do you go to the well? Whoever went to the well before? What did they go to the well for? Twice we find people going to the well. For what? Find a wife. Right? Because at the well, you're bound to find somebody. That's where you get the shidduch. At the well. That's where everybody hangs out at the well. That's where you meet the shadchan. At the well. Everybody eventually has got to get to the well because they all need water. So Moshe Rabbeinu, why does he go to the well? Well, he figures, listen, if I would have been killed, I'd have no offspring. So if I came close to death, he had time to get married. Got to leave something, I was just thinking, Moshe, could be he was thinking, if I could survive a sword on my neck, I might be able to survive marriage too. But whatever it is, this is a joke. But Moshe Rabbeinu, he goes straight from there to go find a wife. Runs to Midian to find a wife. Okay. So Yisro has 7 daughters. And they come out to water they come out to water the flock. And again, now we can see incident number 2. Vayavo aroim vayigorshum. The shepherds come and chase away the daughters. Yisro had been ostracized by his community because he rejected the idol worship of Midian. So they ostracize him. So his daughters come out to water the flock, and the other shepherds came and chased them away. Vayaka Moshe vayoshian. Now watch this. Pay attention very carefully to the terminology here, gentlemen. Moshe gets up and he saves them. Vayashk est sonam, and he waters the sheep. Now look at the change in the gender. First it says the shepherds come vayigorshum, which is the male form. With a mem, it's male. Vayaka Moshe vayoshian, which is feminine. Vayashk est sonam, which is masculine. So it goes masculine, feminine, masculine. Right? The shepherds, vayigorshum, which is the masculine form. Why is that masculine? Because they're treating these girls as if they're males by chasing them away. The shepherds come and treat them like a bunch of guys who you just chase away from the water. What does Moshe do? Vayoshi'an, feminine, because he realizes that they're weaker and they need to be saved. So that goes to the feminine. Vayashkes sonam goes back to the masculine. Why? It's teaching you that Moshe Rabbeinu, he wasn't watering the flock because they're a bunch of helpless females. He was watering the flock to impress the girls. He was watering the flock because the flock needed to be watered. So it goes back to the masculine. If it would have said as sonon, their sheep in the feminine, then it sounds like he's watering the flock because he wants to help the girls out with that. Maybe the girls, no. Es sonom in the masculine because the flock needs to be watered. Okay. So they go home, and Yisro says, why'd you come home so fast? Pay attention, look at Pasuk Yotes. Vatomarna ish mitzri hitzilano miyad roib. An Egyptian man saved us from the shepherds. V'gam dolo lanu. Vayashkes atzon, and he watered the tzon. Yisro, he's got 7 daughters. What do you think a man with 7 daughters is looking for? Right? He's got 7 daughters. They say, why? What are you doing home so fast? Well, there's a guy, number 1, he's brave, and he's kind. Right? He saved us from the shepherds, and he watered the flock. So what's Yisro's reaction? Where is he? Why'd you leave him out there? Don't come in and break bread with us. And bread is a euphemism for a wife. Maybe he'll come in here and marry one of you. Guy comes up, girl comes up, Dad, I got some guy, he's really sweet and he's rich and he's handsome, and he watered the sheep. And yeah, where is he, girl? What's with you? Get him in the house as fast as you can. What happened to you? All 7 of you? None of you were thinking? Okay. Moshe Rabbeinu is punished for this, by the way. He gets a punishment. For what? They referred to him as an Ish Mitzri, and he didn't say anything. And his punishment was not only he didn't enter Eretz Yisrael, but he's not even buried in Eretz Yisrael. Why? Because the Egyptians are idolaters. And it would be something like saying, I met this nice Catholic kid. I'm no Catholic. Maybe I would object to be somebody referring, you help somebody on the plane. Let's say you help a little old lady on the plane, and she says to her friend, this nice Catholic man helped me take my bags down. No, ma'am, I'm not Catholic. I would object. I would say something. And Moshe Rabbeinu should have said something because the Egyptians were idol worshippers. If somebody called you Egyptian. Why he didn't say, I don't know. But, Vayoel Moshe Lasheves as Aish Vayiten es Tzipora Bitola Moshe. Moshe Rabbeinu, he gives him Tzipora. Right? Tzipora is given to Moshe Rabbeinu as a wife. So you have over here the first introduction of Moshe Rabbeinu. Moshe Rabbeinu is saved from the water. She draws him out of the water, becomes a drawer, marries Bishop. Now, Vateled ben, Vatikra Shvo Gershom, Kemar Gera Yisiberes Nochria. Okay. Skip down to Per Gimel Pasuk Aleph. And this is the first revelation that we're going to have. Okay. Per Gimel Aleph. Just one second. Where is it? Where are we here? Here we go. Okay. Moshe hayaroa es son Yisro chosno koid midyan. Moshe is a shepherd. And this is one of the ingredients necessary that's going to make him suitable to become a leader. Because if you have to deal with the sheep, and in many ways that's easier than dealing with people, and sheep don't talk back. But Moshe Rabbeinu shows an inordinate kindness with the sheep. There's a medrash, he picked them up, he wanted a sheep, he picked them up, brought them to the water. If you're kind to the sheep, right, that's a sign of, you're the shepherd. We even talk about the leader as the shepherd of the flock. And where do we find this qualification later on? Dovid HaMelech is a shepherd, he becomes the king. Avram was a shepherd. They were all shepherds, it's not an accident. Being a shepherd means that you're learning how to deal with others and take care of them. And that's what's needed to be a leader. And you got to be extremely patient with people. And you got to tolerate people. And you can't just sit there. You got to serve the people. So Moshe Rabbeinu is a shepherd. Now, we're going to have the episode with the bush. So what happens over here? Vayera malach Hashem elo v'laba seish v'toch hasna. Vayar v'hinei hasna bo v'asnei nenu uko. Moshe Rabbeinu sees an angel. However this works exactly, he sees the angel, and he sees this sneh. How does the Eretz go translate the sneh? the pasuk base. He calls it the sneh. The bush. He calls it the bush.
Yeah, amid the bush, yeah.
In the bush. And the bush is burning. Now watch this. Vayomer Moshe asura na ve'era es hamara hagodol hazeh. I will move over and see this incredible vision. Madua lo yivar hasneh. Why is the sneh not burning? Now, Rashi, the Artsco translates it, I will turn aside now. Because asura means, Moshe Rabbeinu didn't say, he should have said, Elech, I will go. I want you to listen to this carefully, gentlemen. Moshe Rabbeinu didn't say, Elech, I will go. He said, I will move, I will turn aside to see. That means Moshe Rabbeinu was walking this way, and he sees a burning bush, and he says, I will turn aside to go see what's happening over there. So, I have a friend, I mentioned before, Rabbi Goldberger in Baltimore, said a remarkable insight here. Sometimes in life, you've determined your path in life. And out of nowhere, you're suddenly exposed to something you're completely unfamiliar with, like a burning bush. For many people, it could be Torah, religion, Yiddishkeit. On my path, I've got my path charted out in life. And also I see, whoa, there's a whole world over here that I was never exposed to. Now you have two choices. You could either keep on walking and ignore it, or you could do the responsible and honest thing. So, well, let me see what that is about, because this could be a serious change. Moshe Rabbeinu gets a shock over here. He calls it Hamare Hagadol Hazeh. He says this amazing sight. You know, whether you agree with it or don't agree with it, whether you're going to do it or not, but to be exposed to Yiddishkeit for the first time is an amazing sight. For somebody who walks into a Shabbos room, Shabbos table family, and for the first time, that's an amazing sight. To go into Mei Hasharim the first time and see Hasidim wearing fur, and what do you call it? Now, whether you agree with it or not, or understand it or not, it's still an amazing sight. Now, either I'm going to find out what this is about, or I'm not going to find. If I'm intellectually honest, I will check this out and find out what it's about, because this may involve a serious change in my perceptions of reality. So Moshe Rabbeinu is teaching us over here a life lesson. And by the way, this goes for everybody, because I have mapped out my life religiously, and even my religious approach to life. And sometimes I'll hear something and say, you know what? There's something else I could be doing a little better and more conscientiously. No, that's it. You know, they're machmir. I don't know if they're machmir. Maybe they're onto something, and there's a reason to do it that way, and that indicates more God-fearing than my way. You got to be very, very good, very honest over it. I knew a distant relative of mine. She was raised in California. No Shabbos, no Pesach, no Yom Kippur, no nothing. And eventually, something happened. One where it came to Israel. Make a long story short, she ended up becoming frum, and she was getting married. Met a guy, a frum guy, and the two of them getting married. Okay, her family came in for the wedding, and they were at the guy had the wedding. Everybody had a good time. Then they had the Shabbos Sheva Brachas. So the Shabbos Sheva Brachas, everybody's in the room, and there were some frum for the frum side of the family also. They were all there. They're sitting at the Shabbos Sheva Brachas. They started singing Zmiros. You know, the men start singing Zmiros. And as they're singing Zmiros, she looks across the room, and there's her father, and he's joining in with the Zmiros. He clearly knew the Zmiros. So she realized that, you know, he had some exposure to Judaism, obviously when he was younger, and he buried it all away and never get anything to her. So she got up in the middle of the Sheva Brachas, she ran over, she started hollering at her father. She said, you knew about this all along and you never gave it to me. You deceived me, you deprived me of what was mine. I will never talk to you again. Right? Yeah, she was like, now, you're not allowed to do that. She's wrong. I not judging her, she was emotionally distraught. You're not allowed to do that. You know, you're not allowed to, what do you call it? You have to, even when if you resent your parents, so the worst you could do is not talk to them, but you can't insult them, certainly not in public. But she was very, very upset about that because, you know, she had to discover it on her own, which she did. Fortunately, she did. But she was absolutely livid, you know, that her father had deprived her. So Moshe Rabbeinu shows you, what do you call it? Sometimes you got to turn aside. 1 second. Vayar Hashem kisar leros. Hashem saw that he moved to sea. Vayikra elav Elokim miktoch hasna. Hashem saw that he moved over, so Hashem calls to him. So what's HaKadosh Baruch Hu waiting for? Take the initiative. When you come over to look, then I'll call out to you. First, Moshe Rabbeinu goes over to look. And then Hashem calls out to him, make a try. Guy says, if I feel inspired, I'll become more religious. You feel inspired, huh? Yeah. Why don't you go try to get inspired first, then you'll see if you feel inspired. Okay, wait, Hashem, I'll be in Las Vegas gambling. Come call me. No, don't work that way. Make an effort. Then you see if Hashem calls you. Vayomer Moshe Yomer Hineni. Now watch this. So the last one. This is the one I really wanted to get to today. Very important for us. Vayomer al tikrav halom. Hashem says, don't come near. Shal na alecha me'al raglecha. Take your shoes off your feet. Ki hamokom asher ata omed olevad mas kodeshi. Take your shoes off your feet. You're standing on holy soil. Don't come here. You're standing on holy soil. Don't come closer. We'll talk about it next week a little bit, what it really means, but there's an essential point for us. The person has to know, sometimes I feel, if I would have had different life circumstances, and if I would have had a different chance and different opportunities, I would be more religious and I'd be like that, and I'd be, stop. Stay right where you are, who you are. You are on holy soil. Don't come here. You don't need to be in Bnei Brak. You don't need to be in Lakewood. You were born somewhere else, raised somewhere a different way. Where you are is also holy soil, because you're also representing God's what do you call it? You're also representing Hashem's avoda. And where you are is holy soil with your life circumstances and your way of serving God. If I was born in Bnei Brak today, I'd be more religious and I would get into learning and I would do you don't have to be in Bnei Brak. There are other places in the world, like Chicago. Right? Other places in the world. You don't have to be in Chicago to be a holy Jew. You don't have to be in Bnei Brak. You don't have to be in Pittsburgh. You don't have to be in South Africa. You have to be who you are, where you are with your life circumstances. And then you're on holy soil. So you don't have to come over here. You don't have to go. Shal na'alecha me'al raglecha. But you have to take your shoes off. Na'al comes from the Hebrew word no'el, min al, which is a lock. Shoes are the thing that's on us very firmly. You tie your shoes on, you're locked. Your shoes lock you, right? I'm locked. You even talk about expression. You never say, "Boy, I wouldn't want to be in his shoes." Now, we're firmly in our shoes, right? What it means is, take off those things that are locking you up and holding you back. Shal na'alecha me'al raglecha. The things that the habits, the life approaches, the ideas you have, which are holding you back, you're locked in, that's not allowing you to go forward, take it off, then step forward. And realize you don't have to go too far forward. You're on holy soil already, but take off your shoes. Take off those things that are holding us back. I'll tell you, you ever heard a story? I must have told you a story. These guys are, I heard the story took place in one of the Muslim countries, like Iran or something. These guys are playing cards, and they made a wager. Whoever loses has to go into a cemetery at night and knock 3 nails into a coffin, into a tombstone. That was the bet. Okay? So one of the guys loses. So he goes to the cemetery. It's pitch black at night. He goes into the cemetery. He got these 3 nails in his hands. He's shaking like a leaf because it's a quiet cemetery at night. He's shaking like a leaf. He goes into the cemetery, and of course it's raining a little bit. He goes into the cemetery, runs up to the first tombstone, takes out the first nails it in, takes out the second nail, nails the third nail, gets it in, turns to run, and boom, somebody's grabbing him from behind. Somebody grab in a cemetery. Guy has a heart attack and dies on the spot. And upon investigation, it turned out nobody had grabbed him. In his panic, he had nailed his own coat to the tombstone. So as he ran away, his own coat was holding him back. And sometimes in life, you look around, well, if it was my rabbis, my parents, they're holding me. Sometimes we're holding ourselves back. Shal na'alecha me'al raglecha. Take off the locks. Take off the restraints. Right? And let yourself go forward. All right, we'll talk more about this on Sunday.